Okay guys, it's Mark Terrell from Paint with Mark, and I've had a lot of emails and questions about I create mud. And for those of you who paint, you'll understand what mud means. It means that when you put in layers and doing them wet and wet, sometimes you put a colour on and then you go and put highlights on and it all goes to mush and mud and all one colour, and you haven't got that lovely definition. So I'm going to try and demonstrate one way where it goes wrong and one way where it goes right. So I'm just going to get some dark colour, some sap green, some blue, and these paints have been on here for a while, so they're a bit lumpy and bumpy, but they're good enough for this demonstration. Some Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, all the dark colours really. I'm just mixing up all dark colours, real lot of dark colours. I'm just mixing up dark colours. Okay, I'll do it with a 1-inch brush. It's probably easier, 1-inch brush. Now, the problem you get of creating mud is by having all the back layers on too thick. So when we put the back on, we put the clouds, sometimes you might have trees going over these clouds and that there's more and more paint being built up and it's going to mix in. So I'm going to get my 1-inch brush and we're going to do a tree, something like that, over this side. And I'm just going to create a bushy shape from here, so I'm just going to tap and here. I'm going to work up. Just a sort of tree shape. Okay, I'll put some more colour on there. Okay, and then I'll do one over the other side as well. I'll just put one down here, a bit dark. So all I'm doing, I'm just applying dark because, as you know, you need dark to show light. So I've got bushy shapes going on there, sort of tree shapes, and to make it more realistic, let's put in a tree, something like that, just a few indications here and there. I'm trying to make it realistic for you to understand what I'm doing and the reasons I'm doing it over there. So I've just scraped in a few bits here. I'll do the same here. Okay, so this side I've applied the paint on thinner. Okay, I've kept tapping but I've applied the paint thinner. Now what you could do if you know you've got a tree in this area, you would get your knife, and you could just scrape off all the paint first and then tap in the tree, and that eliminate the build-up of paint. Because now when I come into another brush, let me get another brush. I'm going to get a 1-inch brush to highlight as well, I think. So I've got my 1-inch brush. Let's move that one out of the way. And I'm going to go into some colour, and let's go yellow ochre. So just going to put into some yellow so you can see it, maybe a bit of cad yellow as well. Now, to get the bushy shape, all I would do is I would just tap in the same thing like this, very lightly tap, to create the illusion of highlighting. Now, because I've got a lot of paint on here, dark, if I press too hard, which I'm going to do, so it looks like a mess, so you can understand why you're getting mud. So one is you've got too much thick paint on here, and two, that you're pushing too hard. So I'm going to purposely push too hard here. Now I don't know whether you can see, but that paint is mixed with the dark, and it just looks all one mess. It just looks like a solid mess. Okay, so basically if I keep doing it, it will just look like a mess. Now this side, I'm just going to wipe the brush. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid white to thin the paint. So the paint now is thinner and brighter, and I'm going to come over this side and I'm going to lightly touch the canvas, very lightly. Now you can obviously see from this side it's just one mass of colour, and this side I've managed to get small amounts of paint in a shape that looks like the shape of these branches. As it comes down, it will take the paint from this and become darker, which it would naturally. It'd be darker down here, but as you can still see, I'm individually highlighting these branches here. Individually, it's not all getting mixed up with the dark. You can still see I've left dark bits in the background, so you can see that. I'll highlight it a bit more, could get a little bit of white. So white, again, I might go into a little bit of liquid white. And liquid white is just, so you just got to remember that a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. So if the light's coming from this side, there may be a couple on the edge, a couple of little light ones over here. But I'm applying, now this is the second load of paint, so I've put 2 lots of paint on top, and it's still not mushing into one colour. You can still see individual highlights. Whereas over here, I'm going to do the same again. I'm just going to go into demonstrate again how you can make a complete mess with your picture by applying too much pressure. But I've even got a thinner paint, I've thinned it down, but by applying too much pressure and too much paint, it will just become a mess. You know, if I try and use the edge to highlight like that, it's just not, it's just mixing in. With the colour. So I hope you can see the difference between that and that one. And that's only done because the background didn't have a lot of paint, so it wasn't built up with a lot of paint, so it was thinner. It's basically like just staining the canvas. So it's easier to apply a couple of colours on top. That was too thick at the base of the background. So, you know, even if you've done this, you can correct this. So let's get a knife. So we scrape off all that colour. Clean the knife. So so I've just scraped off the colour. Get a dark brush, dark mix, and I'm just going to, I mean you can just paint it back in like this, but I'm just going to tap in again to get some basic shapes in there again. I get some sort of dark back in there again, but you see that there's not too much dark. It's not too thick on there. Okay, so we've got a colour back in. We're scraping some bright shapes. Something like that. I'll get my 1-inch brush again. Just make sure it's clean. I will dip my brush into some liquid white, go into our colour. Let's add a little bit of a green in there as well, I think. So I've got a little bit of green so you can see it. Get my brush, I'm pulling it down one way, the other way. Because it's thinner, it can go to a nice chisel edge. Over there, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap down very lightly. Indication. Colour. Okay, I might put another bit of colour. Let's add a bit of, I'm not saying a little bit of sienna in it, well, sort of browny colours, just to give it another tone. Just a few here and there. Just so you can see that I'm managing to apply 2 different colours on here, and it's not all going into mush. So there you can see that I've corrected this one now. Again, if you want to do a bush, something like that, you go into your colour down here. And I can push up like this, and then I'll just clean my brush, or if you've got another brush going, a light brush, you would use your light brush. But I'll just wipe that. A little bit of liquid white. Just come down, load up the brush, and then here I'll just push very lightly. And there you are. I've got a few bits. So that's Mark Terrell with Paint with Mark. How to stop creating mud when you paint.